Hello, true believers, and welcome to the very first Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. review for Bag and Board Vodcast. Ben Riley here to talk to you about Season 2, Episode 8 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., The Things We Bury. Now, I'm assuming anybody watching this is caught up with the show, and if you're not, pause the video, because, go catch up, because this will be a spoiler-filled review. So, as you know, there's been this whole Hidden City arc building up, in addition to the Daniel Whitehall arc, the obelisk whole thing, and Sky's father, which is obviously all connected. Now, there's a lot of fan theories out there about the city being... also, if you don't want to know about possible comic book connections, don't watch this, because I'm going to be talking about that too. And in this case, there's a lot of theories that the city is Atalan, the city of the Inhumans, because it really fits with the blue alien being the Kree, and how the Kree experimented on humans a long time ago and made the Inhumans. So there's this whole fan theory about that's what's going to happen, and I happen to agree with that. I think that would be the most logical place to go with this arc. This episode in particular really delved deep into... It's a little bit hard to describe the feeling I got during this episode, but it felt just like they're really committed to this story arc. We got to see Daniel Whitehall when he's, younger, and watch his age progress. We got to see Sky's father when he was younger. We got to see Coulson and the team going after, trying to find the city. We got to see it's all about this city. That's it. Whereas it used to be, there was like an overarching plot, and every now and then you'd, get a glimpse of it, but it was a, story of the week type show. Now it's fully focused on the season-long arc, and I like that a lot. Based on the name of the next episode, Ye Who Enter Here, I think we're finally going to get to see the city. It looked like we might have seen ruins of the city in the teaser for next week's episode, which, that's interesting. Or at least, what's above it. I assume it's like underground from what it looked like. Now, as far as the Atalan thing, I don't know if there will be Inhumans there. I would find it odd if they introduced the Inhumans on a TV show rather than their own movie. I think it's most likely that this will be the old Atalan, and the Inhumans are now on the moon or wherever Atalan is now, kind of like in the comics, they move the city. So, I don't think we'll see the Inhumans. We're not going to have Black Bolt in an episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But it is interesting. Now, just to dissect what's going on in this episode a little bit, Coulson and team are going after the city. They're trying to find it, so they have this whole convoluted plan of Coulson's to triangulate its position in this one facility. I can't remember the name of it, but they shut everything down by tricking two people into wearing a watch and a button that, when they get close to each other, release an EMP that shuts down all the security and everything. So that's their whole arc for this episode, except that they also cross paths with Sky's father, who his arc with this episode is that he's working with Daniel Whitehall to unlock the secrets of the Diviner, the object that has been around this whole season. And he knows that you're supposed to take it to this city, possibly Atalan, and it'll let you in if you're one of these special people who can actually touch it. Might be Inhumans. We might have already seen Inhumans, actually, if they are Inhumans. In which case it would include Sky and her mother, which we'll get to that. So Daniel Whitehall, is there when Coulson team are there. Hydra knew they were going to be there, so he's there waiting for them. And during the ambush, when they're in this facility trying to triangulate the position of the city, they're ambushed by Hydra. Triplet gets shot, and Sky's father, they don't recognize him. They think he's just a guy, and he says he's a doctor, that he can help. He starts trying to remove the bullet to save Triplet, but he slips up, and he says, Phil's name, Phil Coulson, and they realize who he is, but he severs Triplet's artery so that, and he's holding, clamps so that they have to, do what he says or he'll let Triplet die. And we just get a little, conversation between him and Coulson, but it's interesting for a couple of reasons. One, now they know for sure what he looks like, so they'll recognize him in the future. Two, it's interesting. Unless I missed something, I don't think we know how they knew that Coulson's team was going to be there. I don't know how Hydra knew they were going to be there and laid a trap for them. Unless I missed a detail. I've only watched it once so far, but I'm going to go back and watch the episode again. But it's also interesting that, he repeated what we've heard before. Sky isn't her name. This is another thing that's gotten fans talking, that she might be Jessica Jones, because we know we're getting a Jessica Jones Netflix series. And I believe it's been mentioned that we might have already seen Jessica Jones, that kind of came out. So that's a possibility. Jessica Drew, Spider-Woman, is another possibility. The daughter of, I believe, Hyde or Dr. Hyde, something like that. Because there's this whole theory that Sky's father is this Marvel villain called, I can't remember if it's Hyde or Dr. Hyde, and he has this sort of split personality, where he loses it and goes crazy and becomes a monster, which is what Sky's father has described himself as, a monster, when he's in that state. So, and I can't remember the daughter's name, but he has a daughter in the comics, so that's another theory. Whatever the case is, I believe she is an Inhuman. I don't think... There's an idea that maybe she's Carol Danvers, but I really doubt it. I cannot see her as being Carol. No, I don't see it. So that's not... No, but she's someone from the comics. I mean, really, they wouldn't drag out her name reveal this long unless it was something the fans will recognize. So, still waiting on that. We'll see if that might be like the big, mid-season finale reveal is her name. I don't know. I think the city will be revealed next week. So I believe we have 2 episodes until the mid-season finale, I think. So we'll see what happens there. Now, in connection to Sky's father is Daniel Whitehall, who we get to see a lot of backstory for this week. We get to see how he became immortal. He took those powers from a woman, who we'll talk about in a bit, but she was also immortal, possibly Inhuman. If she was, does this make Daniel Whitehall technically Inhuman now? I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, so he was basically put away by Peggy Carter, who we got to see again, Haley Atwell. That's always awesome to see her. She decided she wasn't going to use him. She wasn't going to give him a chance to, be clever and betray them, and she wasn't going to give him another chance at, a free life because of everything he'd done. He was a terrible person. So she locks him up, puts him in prison. But then Hydra, being part of S.H.I.E.L.D., breaks him out. They found this woman. He does a horrible experiment on her. He basically dissects her. And I was amazed how much they show. I mean, it was pretty gruesome. We see her insides and everything. That was dark for Marvel. But it was interesting. And then we see him, one of the coolest things, I think, is when we see him lie down. He's old, and then you just see his arm stretched out across the table, and then it just subtly turns young. It was a really convincing effect. I thought it was very well done. But so that's how he turned young. He took her power from her. We don't know where that power comes from yet, but we know it's related to the obelisk, and we know it's related to the blue alien. It's got to be Inhumans. It's the only thing that makes sense to me. So we'll find more about that. We'll find out more about that next week, I'm sure, but we find out one last thing about the woman at the very end of the episode, and that's that it was Sky's mother. Which also explains right before that ending reveal, we hear Daniel Whitehall say, you always want to look your enemy right in the eye. Then he looks over at Daniel Whitehall, and this is after he meets Grant, who, oh yeah, I didn't talk about Grant. I'll talk about him in a second. But anyway, so basically Daniel Whitehall, Sky's father hates Daniel Whitehall for dissecting, basically, and killing Sky's mother and destroying his family when he wiped out this whole village and took Sky's mother and killed her. So we'll see that play out eventually, but man, so many reveals this episode, and every episode it's like so much more gets revealed and there's so much more we don't know. It's a very well written story arc. I'm really loving this season. But I didn't forget again, Grant Ward. Now we've seen him basically give a gift to Coulson. You know, he gave him Bakshi. Hydra doesn't know that that was Grant that handed over Bakshi, and they don't know Bakshi is captive of S.H.I.E.L.D. They just know he's missing. So they don't know that Grant isn't really loyal to Hydra anymore, so they take him back in. But this is after Grant finds his brother, who we're pretty much immediately on this episode, you know, the fact that we're not supposed to like his brother is reinforced because he's, you know, talking to his wife about, you know, sorry, I'm going to be gone a few days, you know, on business, and then he immediately calls his mistress, who he's having an affair with, that he's about to meet up with. So, kind of a scumbag already, but that just scratches the surface. Because as we find out, Grant told the truth. His brother forced him to push his younger brother, Thomas, down the well because their mother apparently tortured Grant and Christian. And it's just this really tragic, broken family. But, you know, when he finally admits it, it looks like, you know, for a moment, it looks like, oh, Grant's forgiving his brother. He just wanted him to admit the truth, and now they're going to move forward. And, you know, he puts his arm around his brother, and they start walking away after they, you know, hug, and he says, you know, it's time to go home. And his brother, you know, tentatively raises his arm and puts it around Ward's shoulders, and it looks like, oh, now we've got two Wards working together. Till Ward shows up at Hydra to talk to Daniel Whitehall, and it's revealed that Grant took his brother to their parents' home, murdered his parents and Christian, and used the recording. Apparently he was recording Christian's confession about pushing Thomas down the well, uses that to make it look like a murder-suicide. I mean, I knew Ward was bad. Grant Ward, I mean. I knew Grant was bad. This is a whole other level of just... I mean, he just murdered his parents and brother. Yeah, if you didn't... Anybody who thought, you know, oh, maybe Ward can be redeemed and come back to the team, no. No, he's bad. The guy is crazy town banana pants. So, that's this week's episode. You know, I love all the superhero shows on right now. I think DC is doing a great job, but nothing else has me as hooked as Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I love this show. I'm not going to give it a rating. I don't like doing rating systems because I don't like boiling down an entire, you know, complex story into one number. But this was a good episode. This has been an amazing season. I can't wait to get this whole season on Blu-ray and just watch it all in one sitting because it's an amazing story arc. And I can't wait for next week. This is the one show that, you know, all the DC shows, sometimes I watch them live, sometimes I watch them later. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., 9 o'clock Tuesdays, I'm always there. I have to. I love this show. That's all I can say. I love this show. And, yeah, I look forward to talking to you guys next week about it. Enough said.